The 2023 NFL trade deadline has come and gone, and it went the way Jerry Jones told us it was probably going to go. No trades made by the Dallas Cowboys. A couple of noteworthy deals. We'll break down a bunch of them, but a mostly quiet trade deadline. All things considered, no Jalen Johnson deal. Denver makes no moves. Minnesota made some minor moves. A mostly quiet deadline. Let's break down the deals that went down and how it impacts the Cowboys, who frustratingly again don't improve their team down the stretch. We'll go quick on the final deal was Rasul Douglas with a fifth and a third from Green Bay. Bills tried to get Jalen Johnson. Dallas wasn't in the market, it seemed like, in the end. He does not get traded. The Lions got Donovan Peoples-Jones for a future fifth. Neither deal I would have made if I were the Cowboys. DPJ thought a favor. And this is the one that got people bothered, and we'll spend some time on this too. The Chase Young trade to the rival 49ers. We'll spend some time here. A 2024 comp third-round pick. It is not an actual third-rounder. It is a compensatory third-round pick given to the Niners for losing now Titans GM Rand Carthon as part of the NFL's diversity promotion period. Let's hit some of those big camps here, so we can spend time on it. Chase Young goes to San Francisco, and that's frustrating. It's not a very expensive deal for San Francisco. It helps the Cowboys in the short term. It really does. You don't have to face Chase Young, or as we'll get into later, Montez Sweat. You don't have to face any of those guys now against the Commanders. They are selling. They are not very good. But it's another example of a contending team in the NFC doing everything they can, writing every check they can to make themselves a bigger and better contender. That Niners defensive line has Chase Young, Bosa, Eric Armstead, Randy Gregory, Javon Hargrave, and more, and they added Chase Young to the rotation. They might not pay Chase Young long-term. This might end up only being a rental. They send a third this year, get a third or a fourth-round pick comp back in the future. It's an aggressive move. It makes their team better, and it's noteworthy when the Dallas Cowboys go that route. When other teams go that route and the Cowboys don't. I know many of you on our live show were upset by it, and I get it, because the Cowboys just stand pat far too often. So should the Cowboys have made a trade today, maybe in particular any of the ones that went down today, should the Cowboys have done something today? It's the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there. Y for yes, N for no. The other trade that I was actually most intrigued by, and you can just let me rant if you want to, your producer Chris, I would have done this one. Ezra Cleveland, as of filming, I assume it's going to be 2024 6th. I have not specified it, for a 6th. That is it. Ezra Cleveland maybe has lost his job to Dalton Reisner, another player we talked about trying to get in the past. But Cleveland goes to Jacksonville for a 6th-round pick. Now, to be fair, the Cowboys did not have a 6th-round pick this year. In fact, they have a first, a second, a third, and 2 7ths until they get some of the comp picks back later on in the offseason. I had to move the future 5th for him. Who here feels better when Tyron Smith gets hurt again to put Tyler Smith at left tackle and plug Ezra Cleveland in at left guard? I mean, Austin Richards just isn't there yet. You're trading a day 3 pick for a low-end starting caliber piece on the offensive line, or at least a good depth piece. Why wouldn't you do that? Why? The pick could be a Josh Ball. I would have done that deal. The Jerry Jones said every team wants offensive line help. Every team does. Well, this was offensive line help that went for cheap. Why weren't you in the mix, Jerry? Why? Did you call? Or did you just let other teams wait to call you? I am disappointed. That is the big deal I would have made. Chase Young, it's not a huge need for you, but the Niners were aggressive. I get that. I'd have called on Ezra Cleveland. We talked about it on the show. I did not think he'd go for a sixth. I thought he'd go for more. Now, maybe I'm overvaluing him. Very possible. Would not be the first time. But, man, to not even go for a sixth, not have interest when every team needs O-line help. Love it for Jacksonville. Hate it for Minnesota. Hate it for Dallas. Today's show was made possible by Prize Picks. You can get a first deposit match up to $100 by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and using code CLNS. Link will be in the comments and the description of today's video. Prize Picks is the largest independently owned DFS, that's daily fantasy sports platform, in North America. They are also the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's you against the numbers. You don't battle thousands of other players. The pros are to pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. My picks this week, give me Joe Burrow. More than passing yards against the shaky Bills secondary. Well, they went for Rasul Douglas, after all. The Dolphins' run defense is bad. Isaiah Pacheco, more than rushing yards. And CeeDee Lamb gets to cook against the Eagles, more than 75.5 receiving yards. Again, folks, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Next up, the Vikings, because they were kind of weird today, traded for Joshua Dobbs, a conditional 7th-round pick going to Minnesota, and a 6th-round pick going to Arizona. Those of you going, well, what about a Cooper Rush trade? Probably about the value that you could have maybe gotten, and I don't think that's worth it for the Cowboys, as far as I'm concerned. So what player or players who were traded today, so no Jalen Johnson, no Derrick Henry, no Devontae Adams, what player who was moved today would you have traded for? Sound off in the comments section. The biggest trade from a draft pick perspective was Montez Sweat to the Bears because they hate having second-rounders, apparently. Montez Sweat to the Commanders for a 2024 second. There's no real impact here for the Cowboys outside of the fact that those games against the Commanders have gotten easier. The Commanders, and allegedly, by the way, per some reports out there, the impetus for trading away their top 2 pass rushers and getting set to ride with James Smith-Williams and Casey Toohill and KJ Henry and F.A. Abada, ownership. Ownership said sell. I don't think Ron Rivera and company wanted to sell. But Josh Harris, who also, by the way, traded away James Harden this morning or last night, whatever it was, for his Sixers, said to sell. The Commanders are not contenders. Those games, don't sleep on them. It's a rivalry game. Those games will not be as tough for you. The pass rush is not going to be nearly as good, so it helps. But you wanted to have some more success if you're with the Cowboys doing deals. So helps Dallas, I guess, but didn't help the Cowboys in terms of the actual moves. If you are looking for Cowboys news, you come to the right spot. Tomorrow, we will have free agent targets for the Cowboys and a preview against the Eagles, plus whatever injury news we get on Wednesday. Hit that sub button for more free Cowboys videos. Let's talk Eagles then. This is kind of dating back a few days previously, but I'm going to allow it. They made 2 trades, one of which was the very popular for the past 2 months, day 3 pick swap. Eagles get a 6th in exchange for Kentavius Streets and a 7th-round pick. It's nothing. It's not a big deal. It's fine. We'll get to the other Eagles trade here real quick, actually, before we get to the next part there. I highlighted Joy there. Producer Chris, my bad. The big one was the Kevin Byard trade. A 5th a sixth, and Terrell Edmunds. It's very light. It's very little. Not much involved from that perspective. What is your confidence level in the Cowboys right now? That was a great trade for Philly, by the way, but we talked about that one previously. Scale from 1 to 10. The top teams in the NFC right now, your contenders, your obvious contenders are the Eagles, the Niners, the Lions, Seattle, and Dallas. Those first 4 teams we named all made a trade at or around the deadline. Dallas did not. Scale your confidence level 1 to 10 in the comments. Here was the Seattle trade. I don't love that one, by the way. I think a second is a lot for Leonard Williams. He's a good player, but they ate a bunch of money, which kind of drove up the cost, which maybe was just like it cost shouldn't have been that high in the first place, but I digress. A second and a fifth for the Giants, as they also sold with Seattle getting Leonard Williams. So clear-cut NFC East favorites, Dallas or Philadelphia. Giants and Commanders, clear as day, sold this year in Dallas.